I'll be talking to you about application and reliability of Corvus ST in various clinical scenarios. And very quickly, we will go through the theory part. Corvus ST is dynamic and non-invasive and uses high-speed Schemflick camera, which records deformation at 4,330 frames per second over a horizontal range of 8.5 millimeters, and it has about 140 digital frames that it measures. Now, it is useful. It is useful for knowing about it is useful for the glaucoma specialists because it overcomes the well-known errors in the measurement of intraocular pressure. It is also useful for screening for diseases such as keratoconus and glaucoma, predicts the responses to corneal procedures such as corneal collagen cross-linking and laser vision correction. And there are other new applications which are also underway. So this is just to show the same. Now, as far as the intraocular pressure is concerned, it gives you biomechanically corrected IOP, and that is very useful, especially post-refractive in cases of patients who have undergone refractive surgery. So the definition or the definition of the various parameters as follows. That is, you have the initial state like this, and there is a puff of air which goes onto this applanation length, and as this puff of air is goes onto the cornea, this dips down a little bit, so you have a deformation amplitude, and there are two such applanations which happen, and deformation amplitudes which happen. And basically, based on these parameters, the various biomechanical parameters are designed. So this is how essentially it looks like, and you do get these kind of maps in this. And this is more from the theory point of view as to what are the various parameters that are involved in Corvus ST. Now, these are the parameters, the A1 time, A2 time, A1 length, A2 length, A1 velocity, A2 velocity, the highest concavity time, the peak distance, and more importantly, the deformation amplitude. And whenever there is any subclinical ectasia, that can be easily picked up by this. And this is just to say that in various geographical regions and countries, the data may be different. And it is very important to get the data from all parts of the world because what is there in US may not apply for us. We also have what is called as the Pentachem HR, and this is just to show how these images are taken and how these fields are interpreted. I'm sure Dr. Ritin has already talked to you about this, a case of keratoconus with thinning. And I would now be discussing some case scenarios of keratoconus, refractive surgeries, and keratoplasties on the map so that it becomes clearer. Suffice it to say that softer cornea would have increase in the deformation amplitude, corneal velocity, DA ratio, inverse concave radius, integrated radius, and would also have a decreased applanation length. And after refractive surgery, also the arc length would decrease, and so would the stiffness parameters A1 and the ART. So this is important. That is, if you have a TBI or CBI, which is ranging between 0.25 to is less than 0.25, it is low risk. In between, it is moderate risk, and more than 0.5 is high risk. And when we come to the examples, now this is a case of keratoconus, which can be very nicely seen here. And if you look at the BAD, that is also abnormal. And these are the same patients, same patient in the has mild keratoconus in the right eye and severe keratoconus in the left eye. Now, Corvus probably may not be very useful here because already it is a diagnosed case of keratoconus, but it really picks up the subclinical cases or the form first cases. And if you look at the various parameters, that is the applanation length as well as the arc length, you can see that because of the severity of the keratoconus, these parameters would also be different for both the eyes. Now, if you look at the CBI and the BAD and the TBI, BAD is 5 here and 14 here because it is severe, but CBI and TBI will not show much of change because these are more for the early keratoconus rather than late. So it has already crossed this even in cases of mild keratoconus. And if you look at the corneal thickness is much less in cases of severe keratoconus, and it doesn't, you can see it doesn't bend as much as it bends much more as compared to your mild keratoconus. Now, this is a 7-year-old male who came to us with the vernal keratoconjunctivitis. The parameters look okay. Now, if you look here, the CBI here is, you can say, is a little bit suspicious, which needs to be followed up. The bad D is okay. The TBI also is in between here. And if you look here, then again, the bad D appears to be normal here. But again, if you look at these parameters, this is clearly a suspect who needs to follow up, because the CBI and the TBI are in the suspicion zone. So you need to follow up these patients, and this is the advantage of doing biomechanics in such cases. Pediatric keratoconus, which is symmetrical, can again be highlighted here, the right eye and the left eye. And in this case, again, this is a pediatric keratoconus, which is also symmetrical, which shows the bad D maps of the same. And then these are the TBI and the biomechanics of the same, which shows that, again, both of them have crossed that point where they're gone into a severe category or moderate category. And biomechanics probably will not be that useful here. It is more for the early cases and the form first cases. Now we look at the PRK4 maps refractive here. And then if you look at the dynamic corneal response pre and post-op, it looks almost the same. And again, if you look at the CBI LVC, then notice that it is normal, which is expected because it is a surface procedure. And pre and post-op PRK, if you see the corneal deformation, then it is not saying almost the same, but nearly the same pre as well as post-operatively. Now, these are the 4 LASIK maps refractive, and in this, it is expected to change pre and post-op. You can see that on the pentachem, again, it is showing some amount of increase in the posterior elevation and decrease in the pachymetry. And if you look at the biomechanical or the tomographic assessment, then again, it appears to be normal. And if we look at this applanation length as well as the arc length, very clearly, if you compare it with this, these parameters are altered after the LASIK surgery. You can have post-LASIK ectasia such as this, which can be shown on the BAD display also, and otherwise also. Then this is SMILE pre and post-op. The elevation is slightly increased as is expected. And these are the biomechanical or the tomographic assessment features. Notice that although pre-operatively the CBI was a little borderline, TBI was all right, but following laser vision correction, it is still coming in the normal zone. And the parameters again are altered despite the fact that it is a SMILE procedure when you compare it with the pre-operative status. And again, when you look at these pictures, you can see that post-operatively, again, the cornea is thinned out, and it is tending to bend a little more. It is tending to get a little more deformed. We also looked at our cases of Intacs with CXL, but we did not come across anything much. We did not expect also anything much as far as the biomechanical parameters are concerned, but we had done collagen cross-linking. But I'm sure, I think it is the additional factor of Intacs which has marred the effect of collagen cross-linking. And so we could not pick up anything on this in terms of tomographic parameters or in terms of the pentachem. Then just to, I was curious to know what happens to penetrating keratoplasty. This is with the sutures in, and this is with the sutures out. Notice that there is ectasia here. And if we look at the bad D here, it looks okay, but because of the ectasia, this bad D is grossly abnormal. And again, if we look at the biomechanics here, you can see that this is still in the normal range, but here it is showing features of ectasia. CBI is increased, the bad D is increased, the TBI is also increased. Following post-DALK again, alteration can be again seen post-DALK. There is some amount of ectasia there, also highlighted by bad D. And but if you look at the CBI, again, it is altered. The bad D here doesn't look to be altered, but here it is borderline. So I think for these cases such as keratoplasty, suture in, suture out, those are the things which we really need to relook as to how Corvus is going to help us, or how or whether any modifications are required in the machine to even pick up these cases. This is post DSEC, and as expected, there is no alteration in the morphology. And although CBI is altered and TBI is also in between, the bad D here is showing to be normal. So again, these are the case of these are some cases which we really need to look at in greater details. So standardization of normative data in different ethnic groups is required, as this may be different geographically. Limits of diagnosis of the study of biomechanics need to be expanded. I've already shown you the limits. Biomechanics of cases should be more inclusive, to include cases with other pathologies, corneal transplants, including donor corneas. And we are still in the stage of infancy, but there's a potential to change the whole new world of biomechanics. So thank you very much for your kind